Thanks for staying tuned. If you're just joining in, this is Providence Television International, and this is the Morning Drive. This is the newspaper analysis segment, and I have with me in the studio Dr. Emmanuel Agariba. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, as usual. Beautiful day, as always. Thank you so much.
On the newspaper analysis, we'll be starting with this news item from the Daily Trust. Senators' monthly pay hits 2 billion naira. Each senator gets 21 million naira per month as running cost. Senator Kawu Sumaila. You'll get the details of this on the page 4, but on our newspaper analysis. Sir, there's been this, I would want to know if I should use the word controversy. Nigerians have been asking how much do the senators earn, and then the senator is coming out now to say that his monthly take-home pay is 21 million naira. What is your take on this?
Well, I hope eventually he's not going to get suspended because he has opened the floodgates for all kinds of incursions into how much they are receiving. And in any case, they have always denied this. But mercifully, somebody has come out now to say, look, my salary, and he's a senator, he's a serving senator, is 21 million naira. And I think that's fairly outrageous. I mean, for an economy such as this, we have always said that the cost of governance in this country is too high. It's too high. We have said that even repeatedly on this station, and that remains our stand, that they need to synergize with the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground does not support 21 million naira take-home pay for senators. It doesn't. It doesn't at all, because the people will say this, and that will create room for all kinds of, not just controversy, but some very ugly situations might arise as a result of this. Besides, that is just on the surface. I mean, there are other things that go with it. For example, we are not even talking to the principal officers, who may earn as much as double of that. Okay, so Senator Kawu has opened the floodgates again. I would not be surprised if he's put on the spot in the next few days, and some of his colleagues will ask him, who sent you to be saying that? Don't forget that former President Olusegun Obasanjo also talked about it a few days ago. Yes, that the cost of governance is too much, particularly for senators. What they take home at the end of the month is just too much. I understand that the House of Reps is probably within the range of about 15 million. Now multiply that. The multiplier effect is such that we cannot imagine. Over 300 people in the House of Reps and 91 in the Senate. So if you multiply that, you know what it is. I have always really, talked about the need to make the National Assembly not a full-time thing. It should be part-time, with little amount of money, because most of them were quite wealthy before they got into the Senate. They were quite wealthy. Some of them, they call it retirement home now, by the way. Most of them have been they have been governors and all that, and they just go there, they fold their arms. Some of them go through the entire period without even raising a motion. Okay, they just go there and probably have their slumber. All right, so we must look at that. We must look at that very seriously. And I have often said, why do we even need a bicameral? Why can't we even have one? Yeah, to reduce cost. Just a couple of days ago, I said on this program that you ask somebody to fill a form. What's your occupation? They will tell you is a politician. What's that supposed to mean? It's not a profession. No, it's only in this country we have professional politicians. No, it shouldn't arise. If you make it part-time, it is then you have people who genuinely want to serve. Okay. Not what we have on ground now. Okay. Yes.
And if going by this figure, 21 million naira per month, and that is going through the senators, the number of senators that we have, that's about 2 billion naira a month. How do you think this trend can be curbed or stopped?
Willpower. The president should have the willpower to initiate the procedure that we must cut costs. In any case, the presidency itself has said, look, the cost of governance is too much. It's too high for a developing country, not just a developing country like Nigeria, but for a country that has been so impoverished in the last few years. So we are thinking very seriously that the federal government should take a second look, not just a second look, critical look at what the senators are earning. Don't make any mistake about it. The senators in this country have become an endangered species when it comes to relationship with the people. Nobody wants to hear about senators. Let nobody deceive you. Nobody wants to talk about senators in this country. Nobody wants to talk about the House of Reps members in positive light. Majority of them, and that's the truth. I mean, they can sample opinions outside. Nobody wants to talk about them in very positive light.
Now, you were talking about the federal government stepping into this. If we remember some time ago, the federal government actually did in the form of giving out some gifts on the outrageous side. Do you think that the federal government that does that in the kind of gifts that were given out monetarily for the senators, proclamation of to get cars and all that, do you think that same government will want to come out to caution the tendencies as regards their salary?
That's the issue. And it's a very germane thing. I mean, for a discussion such as this. I mean, a government who could dole out billions just to buy SUVs. And what pains me and what pains most Nigerians is that these guys have cars. You don't replace them. Are we going to be replacing cars every 4 years or replacing their housing facilities and all of that? It's a wasteful process, very wasteful indeed. And a lot of people are angry about that. Some of these senators have aides that also have aides. Yeah. I read one time that a special advisor to a senator also has some special assistants attached to him. I mean, the whole thing was laughable. Okay? So, but it is sad, pretty sad, that in this country, in fact, the Bishops' Conference of the Catholic Church have talked about this very, very copiously, that we need to reduce the cost of governance. Not just in the federal government, but even in the states. We need to. It is far too outrageous. When you are talking about, what do they call it now, security vote, that you cannot account for, and it goes on and on and on and on. That's why we have a lot of pilfering in this country. Okay. Yeah, because the money is too much. When you don't even have, you don't know what to do with the money that comes your way. So you have pilfering. You have people putting their hands into the public till, okay?
And so the question arises, who checkmates the pilfering?
The National Assembly should regulate itself. It is self-regulatory. Okay. Yeah, but in this circumstance, how can they self-regulate when they are also partakers in the thing? And I look forward to a day, really, when members of the National Assembly who belong to the same party with the executive will say, no, the executive, you cannot do this. That is where meaningful self-regulation comes in. But in this country, and a lot of people have blamed the National Assembly, have become, what they call it now, rubber stamp. The executive comes up with a kind of bill and you just rubber stamp it without looking at the merits, the pros and cons of that. All right? And we can go on and on with a lot of examples. So we can't belabor that this morning. But it is sad that we have this kind of situation. I'm not alone in this. A lot of people out there, many Nigerians, in fact, many well-meaning Nigerians, patriots, they have talked about this, that we need to take a second look. And the bottom line again is that these guys who earn so much, that is why they fight tooth and nail to get back into those positions. They fight tooth and nail. At the end of their tenure, you'll see them coming up with all kinds of attractions for the electorate. Yes, because they want to go back. And immediately they go back, that's the end of the story.
Viewers out there, we are going to, for the first time on the program, because it relates to exactly the same discussion that we're having right now, we're going to, for the first time, slide into the interview segment, still with Dr. Emmanuel Egariba. And on the interview segment, we're looking at leadership failure. Dr. Emmanuel, case that we just cited, is it as a result of leadership failure?
Oh yes, it comes with all kinds of coloration, really. I mean, that was part of the book I wrote. Anyway, I think it's the last chapter, the Pathways to Effective Leadership. We sold out in the first 1 month. We are looking at about 8 points, really. I hope I can summarize that for this program. Leadership fails because certain things are not done rightly. Okay? Now, we must have the number one, which is love for the followers. You must love your followers. Okay? Love means you must empathize with them. Which brings me to the issue of compassion. You must love your followers. If you don't love your followers, then you cannot empathize with them. There will be a lacuna, okay? And there will be opportunities that you ought to look to take advantage of, but you fail. to take advantage of such things, and that creates the room for all kinds of feelings from the electorate and from the people you lead. It's not just within the government; it's also in the home. So a leader must play the role of a lover, not in that kind of man-woman relationship, but you must love your followers, okay? And all the leaders, the best leaders we have had in this whole world, have shown that example, and you can count them, whether it is Gandhi, or whether it is Churchill, Mandela. You must love your followers. It is very important. That's number one. Number two, you must serve with passion. Yes, it is very, very important. You must be passionate about what you are doing. And as I've often said, leadership is a 24-hour job, particularly in government. You sleep with it, you wake up with it. God puts you there in trust. In trust. So the destiny of states, for instance, a particular state, 2.1 people, 3 million people, the destiny of those people will be in your hands, because you have to provide for them. So you must be passionate about leadership. Leadership without passion invariably leads to failure. Right. We may also look at the issue of the right frame of mind.
Okay.
Always the right frame of mind. In other words, you must not have question marks about your ability to control your temper. Okay, you must have the right frame of mind. You must not be a kind of leader who has question marks about his behavioral pattern. I mean, a lot of people in this direction will say that, all leaders must go through the psychiatric test to be sure that something is not wrong upstairs. So that is important, because if you have a leader who doesn't have this kind of attitude, the people run into problems. You run into problems. So there must be a synergy on that level between the leader and the followers. Failure to delegate responsibilities. You must not heap everything upon yourself. No leader should do that, really. Okay. Most African leaders, I know they do this. All right. But with a mission, there must be a mission. And if you are delegating responsibility, there must be a solid and authentic way of doing this. It's not as if at every turn in time or at every single opportunity you want to delegate responsibility. I mean, because the buck stops at your desk, right? So you must delegate responsibility to the extent that the people know your frame of mind. So you must be a synergy between the people you are delegating powers to and you yourself as the leader, okay? So if you have a leader who delegates responsibilities and runs away from taking responsibility, then there's failure. Because even when you delegate responsibility to people, and they go wrong, you must be ready to accept responsibility that I sent them, okay? It's not to apportion blame. Oh, no, I told this fellow he didn't do what is right and things like that. Love of authority is another, which is number 5, I think. Love of authority means you love the position. You love the office, but you do not love the responsibilities that go with it, all right? And there are many leaders we have, even in this country, among the state governors, they love the office, they love authority, to hang on to authority, but they do not love what goes with the authority. In other words, yes, I'm Mr. Governor, everything stops at my desk, but I do not take responsibility for the things that go with that office. I'll give you a typical example. If a man becomes a governor, for example, shortly after that, he goes to sleep. He doesn't perform the responsibility. In other words, he will be happy to be called a governor, all right? But he goes to sleep. He doesn't synergize with the people anymore. So there is a big break. And people begin to wonder, where is our governor? Or a governor who just travels all the time, just because he's the governor, or even the president, okay? He travels almost half of the month. What time does he have to sit down and do his job properly? So that's one of the areas where we have failure. Sometimes, and I think this is also one of the failures, there's no focus. Yes, in other words, there's a lot of planlessness. I imagine that when the governor, before a governor is sworn in, or perhaps even the president, there's a 3-month period. All right. That 3-month period is enough for anybody to plan. And you hit the ground running. They use that phrase, oh, hit the ground running. But the ground is always there. They don't hit it. Okay? So they don't hit the ground running. You must. It amazes me. Come to think of it. A governor comes into position, and then 1 month after, he's still looking for his commissioners. Whereas all these things ought to have been put in place. I look forward to a day when either the president or the governor being sworn in will announce the list of his ministers on the day of his inauguration, or the list of commissioners on the day of his inauguration. That means you are really hitting the ground running. You announce it. And I think Governor Yegu, I mean, to be very honest, that's what he did. When I was the chief press secretary, he announced his commissioner that day, and people were happy. All right, so there must be focus. There must be no room for greed. That I think is number 7. There must be no room for greed or avarice. This is one of the areas we really must look at very critically, because the reason is, why are people greedy when they come into government? They are greedy because sometimes it's habitual. All right. It's habitual, and it needs to be curbed. I don't know if I've said something about the monkey syndrome on this station. And I will explain. The monkey syndrome, a lot of leaders are guilty of that. And what's the monkey syndrome? Sociologists will tell you that, look, now if you have a small room of about 8 by 8, and you put monkeys there, a very big one, a large one, and 3 small ones, and you put a bunch of bananas in the middle for them to consume. Watch what the monkey does. I mean, this thing can be experimented. You know what the monkey does? The big one will carry the banana to his chest, the bunch of bananas to his chest. The others are hungry. The 3 little ones are hungry. Occasionally, he feels some very funny sympathy. He plucks one and he gives it out. The other one will cry again, meaning he's hungry. He will pluck one and give it out. They are not satisfied. That's the irony. At his own beck and call, he plucks one again and gives it to the other one. What does it mean? It means that the 3 little ones are hungry, but they are not satisfied. And yet there's enough for everybody to eat. Even the big monkey who has everything to his chest. The ideal thing is to put everything down. What they call a common patrimony. The big one will take, the little small ones will take, and there will be leftovers. Yes, that's what happens to leaders who are greedy. You have a lot for you to spend, and yet you say ask him. It's a kind of primitive accumulation. It's primitive, and it's a mental disorder. You have so much to play with, and yet you are still accumulating. You are accumulating. It's very primitive, very, very primitive. I mean, a guy is a governor. Why does he need to steal 80 billion, for example? What's he going to use the money for? Meanwhile, the road to his village is not tarred. To his village is not. I mean, look at what happened to one of our senators the other day for kidney whatever in England. Okay, in this country, he will not have gone to jail for obvious reasons. But the money he has in his possession is enough to build a renal hospital in the village, to attract international people who will come in his village. It was just more than enough. If we have a kidney center in his village. But the average Nigerian will not do that. Okay? And tell me, why will somebody want to have 40 houses in Abuja? 40. He has in Lagos, he has in London, he has in Vienna, he has in New York. All for one person. And yet, at the end of the day, he goes to 6 feet.
So that brings us to the greed factor that you're talking about. What happened on that greed factor?
It's greed. It's greed because an avarice. The better word to use is even avarice. You're accumulating and accumulating. Over what? I mean, the Bible says vanity upon vanity. All is vanity. At the end of the day, and look at all the people who have made money in this country. Where are they today? They're gone. They're gone. All right? So the last one is lack of integrity, which is allied to some of the things I've earlier talked about. Lack of integrity means, and in any case, if integrity is absent, all is lost. You must carry yourself properly. I mean, when Buhari was coming, oh, this is Mr. Integrity and all of that. At the end of the day, what did we see? All right? So it was a dichotomy. So you must juxtapose your person, and it must speak volumes. Your courage must speak volumes of the values you represent. And it must not be in doubt. There must be no question about it, that this man has integrity. Yes, there must be no question. It must, no ambivalence. So anybody who is talking about integrity, say, yes, that's Mr. Integrity.
Okay, I actually did mark, I think the number 2 point that you raised, the third point that you raised, right frame of mind. We've seen in this country a situation where some contestants come out and the next thing, individuals, the electorate, some part of the electorate will be like, that man is over 80, that man is going to 80. Is age a determinant of the right frame of mind for governance?
Well, age to a very large extent plays a major role, because you see, when you get to a certain age, maybe around 70 plus or going to 80, dementia can easily set in. All right, so you must watch that. I mean, nobody can be blamed for that. That happens sometimes naturally, okay? But you get to a certain age and you begin to, not a withdrawal syndrome, you get to a certain age and you even begin to tell yourself that, no, you are willing, but the body is weak. Okay, our leaders don't know that. That's why you have sit-tight presidents all over Africa. Some of them pee on their bodies at public functions. Yes, they do that. We see some of this on social media. And it is not necessary. When you get to a certain age, something must tell you within that it is time for you to have a retreat. It happened in the US recently. Joe Biden, for instance, and the much younger person in Harris had to come along. He knew it, that the body was no longer going to carry him. And the American people told him clearly, we cannot. And he agreed with them. He stepped aside and the vice president has taken over. That, I think, is what should happen in many African countries. A lot of them don't know that you get to a certain age in life and your body begins to tell you that it is time for, because it is mental energy that you are using as a president or as a governor, and it is mental energy that weakens more precariously than physical energy. Yes, a lot of people might not believe it, but medical doctors have said it over and over again, that mental energy wears you down more quickly. So when you are 80, what are you going to offer? At 80, you are in the departure lounge already. At 80, sometimes our nature is such that you cannot cheat it. You get to 80 and a lot of things begin to tell you that, look, gentlemen, you have to slow down. Get room for younger people. The best age really is between 60 and 70. Yes, for the president, because you will depend a lot on your experience and things like that. But by the time you are moving close to 80, you are spent. You are spent already, you know. Yes, it's absolutely true.
One of your points, serve with passion. Would we be misconstruing that? Well, we have a situation, you've had a president who ruled like maybe 12, 15 years ago, and he wants to come back to office to serve the people again. Would that be underlined, or rather, would that still be in line with serving with passion?
Passion means when you are there.
Okay.
Yes, not when you have left.
And you want to come back.
And you want to come back.
Right.
To come and do what? Yes, I do agree that it's your right. But sometimes you also realize that there are many more people. I always like to talk about United States, because in the US, for instance, you have a whole horde of people who are good enough to be presidents. So it is also in this country. You have people who have intellectual power, who can be president, who can lead this country to its El Dorado. But while you are there, you must have focus. You must have focus. And focus means that you have your goals. What people now call agenda setting. Before you go into the office, you must set your agenda. I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. What most of our leaders do, which is outrageous, is that they want to lump everything together. And you cannot do that in leadership. You must have your peaks. All right? In this country, for instance, I always say it, the four main things that every leader, the president or the governor or whoever, should look into. Number one, you must look at security, which is enshrined in our constitution, security of life and property. That's number one. All right? Number two, you must look at the issue of power as your priority. Power. You cannot develop without power. It's not possible. All the European countries we have today have power as the base. So if you must develop, particularly in developing countries, you must have power. You must address the issue of power. Number three, you must address the issue of food security for the people. When the people are hungry, they get angry. We have just seen it in the recent past. And then number 4, you must take charge of housing. Housing. There is no reason, for instance, why a governor of a state cannot have 100 units in each of senatorial districts. There are 3 senatorial districts in each state. Now, there's no reason. I mean, take Edo State, for example, 100 housing units. In the south, in the central, and the north, that's 300. Small one-bedroom flat for young people. Okay? At the, if say about 2 million for each unit. Okay? For 100, that's 200 million. Multiply that by 3, that's 600 million a year. Is that what a governor cannot afford? It's true. I mean, it's practicable. In this station that we're talking about, there's a flat at the back there. I built it with about 1 point something million. It's a 1-bedroom flat, very comfortable. All right? Which you're going to use as staff quarters. So, but it can be done.
Okay.
Yes. And over 4 years, it can be done. Because housing is one of the things, it's one of those factors that really affect income. Yes. Particularly now. And added to that is transportation.
Okay.
Yes, there must be a good transportation system. Because most of the people we have who run the private transportation systems are Shylocks. Somebody was telling me the other day, for those who are conversant with Benin, from Santana Market to Ring Road, it's now 500 naira.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, 500 naira. If you walk in a place down close to close to Ring Road, for instance, that means you are spending on the average of 1,000 every day for transport. And there are people who live far away. All right? So, government, any serious government must look critically at all these areas. Security. Look at what security has done to us in this country. Yes. Look at what food insecurity has done to us. Look at what transportation has done to us. Look at what energy is even the worst, because it's worse because with energy you can set up a little business. I'll give you a typical example. A young school leaver, a girl, for instance, she wants to open up a salon. She probably has maybe 1 or 2 relations abroad. They send her some money. The first thing she does, the first thing she wants to buy is a generator. She won't buy, rollers and all sort of things that are relevant to that trade. Okay? She won't buy all those ones. She will first of all buy a generator because she knows that power will not be a friend in this kind of business.
All right.
The vulcanizer needs it. Everybody needs power. And it promotes small-scale industries. And that is where the action is. If you want to develop, it is the small-scale industries that push the country up. Not the big giant companies. No, because the small-scale industries are the ones that are employing more people cumulatively.
A whole lot. That is quite another topic that has been generated. I always enjoy my sessions with Dr. Gary, because he has a way of generating topics for me, quite on the wonderful side for me too. I've always said it is always an engaging, interesting session with him. Once again, thank you for coming to the studio.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
On this note, I'll say thank you so much for staying tuned on the morning drive. We are just going to end this program now, but that does not mean that our programs for the day have ended. Later today, thoughts and visions of Emmanuel Egariba comes up. Please stay tuned.
Please too, you always forget this. Okay, you always forget, you always do. Please try and remind our viewers that they need to subscribe. They need to subscribe. They need to connect with us properly. And the reason is, this is an online station. Okay, very soon we'll go on the other platform. But in the meantime, just log on to YouTube and then tap in Providence Television International. You're good to go. It is not difficult. Many people have asked me, oh, how do I connect? And I tell them it is easy.
Yes.
All right, it's as easy as ABC. Okay.
Quite a little oversight from me, but then just like Dr. Egariba has said, just simply go to your YouTube, type in Providence Television International, and you are good to go. Very, very soon you will be seeing just down the scroll bar all you need to know as regards getting in touch with Providence Television International. And like I said earlier on, as we take this little break, it is the end of the morning drive, today's edition, but it is not the end of transmission, as we'll have a whole lot lined up for your